Hello, friends. There have been many interesting discoveries in the world and many heartwarming life stories with a happy ending. In this video, I will tell you a story about a woman who saved a baby that was buried alive, about an 18-year-old woman who adopted 13 girls from Uganda, as well as an incredible story about a man who saw an old chain in the ground and pulled it to find something truly amazing. Let's begin. When a baby is born in a family, it feels like a real miracle that everyone usually is extremely happy about. Unfortunately, there are also people that see childbirth as something undesirable, and they take drastic, even cruel measures to get rid of the baby. This story began in 1998. Aziza Malanian was walking down the street with her dogs. Suddenly, one of her pets ran up to a pile of stones nearby and began to bark. The woman decided to come closer and see what was the matter. What she saw there was truly shocking. A tiny human leg was sticking out between the stones. Pulling herself together, the woman rushed to remove the rocks. Aziza thought that the baby was dead, but she was wrong. It was alive. He grabbed the woman's sleeve with his tiny hand and began to cry. According to Aziza, the boy had just been born. Even the umbilical cord hadn't been cut yet. The woman picked up the baby and began to call for help. A car stopped and the driver took Aziza and the baby to the nearest hospital. Fortunately, the baby survived, and he got adopted very quickly. Aziza tried to find the boy later. However, due to the confidentiality of adoption, social services refused to give her the names of the adoptive parents. What's interesting is that the baby's biological mother turned up about a month later. She called the police, but when she realized that she was going to get a long prison term for what she did, she hung up. The police never found her. For 17 long years, Matthew Whitaker didn't know that Aziza Malanian saved his life as an infant. But Matthew's adoptive parents later told him the story of his miraculous rescue. So the young man decided to find Aziza, and he did. The meeting of Aziza and Matthew was truly heartwarming. It was simply impossible to hold back the tears. Now the two maintain a friendly relationship. The young man calls Aziza his guardian angel, and he is right about that. And this 18-year-old young lady adopted 13 girls from Uganda. When she was only 18 years old, she did something that others wouldn't even think about. The student council president and the prom queen, she sure had a bright future ahead of her, but she chose a completely different life, far from what other people usually dream of. Katie Davis is the woman featured in this story. She was born and raised in the state of Tennessee. And since she was little, she belonged to the so-called Golden Youth. Katie was the most popular girl in her class, and she was voted prom queen. Following the logic of her life, she was supposed to go to a prestigious university and have a successful career, but she decided otherwise. While still in high school, Katie went on a missionary trip to Uganda, where she realized what she was going to do after graduation. Instead of going to a university, she decided to spend a year in Uganda, working as a kindergarten teacher at an orphanage. Thus, Uganda became a second home for Katie in 2008. There, she founded the Amazima Ministries, which was dedicated to helping people change their lives and build rapport throughout faith. By the age of 23, the girl became a mother for 13 girls from this country, trying to raise them as if they were her own children. A little later, she met Benji Majors. They both grew up in Franklin, Tennessee, but only met in Africa for the first time, where Majors, like Katie, came as a missionary. When the couple tied the knot in 2015, Katie didn't have any sisters, or friends, or bridesmaids present, but she did have all 13 of her favorite girls with her. The woman believes that people don't have to live in Uganda and adopt 13 children in order to be good. Each person does what they can. The most important part is having the desire and the understanding that each of us is capable of doing a lot. Unusual hobbies have been accountable for many amazing discoveries. Mike Smith was obsessed with treasure hunting stories, and he didn't lose hope of finding a real treasure himself. While most people spent their time in a cafe or in front of the TV, the man went on treasure hunts. He took his favorite metal detector and went to some field that seemed interesting. Most of the time, these hunts ended up with nothing, but sometimes the man did manage to discover something worthwhile. One day, he made a discovery that made him famous. Like most great discoveries, Mike's phenomenal find was accidental. A severe storm broke out that day. After the heavy rains, the field where Mike was doing his treasure hunting was almost completely flooded with water, which prompted him to move to another site. Mike moved around his metal detector like he always does, when suddenly it made a strange sound. For those who aren't familiar with the specifics of this kind of search, I should clarify that ferrous precious metals cause the metal detector to make different sounds. For example, an ordinary piece of iron sounds dull, and a golden find emits a ringing signal. From the sound the metal detector made, Mike concluded that it was iron that he had found, but also that it was very large. The man, of course, couldn't ignore such a find. Armed with a shovel, Mike began to clear the area. The wet earth was easy to remove, so Mike was soon able to see his treasure. It was an old metal chain, covered with traces of rust. At first glance, it seemed like nothing special, but Mike believed that it was his lucky day. The treasure hunter worked until dark, using a flashlight to see the site. He was confident that he'd find something worthwhile on the other end of the chain. And he wasn't wrong. Having dug up the chain, Mike continued to dig until he hit an iron door. It was already late at night, so the excavation had to be paused. The man could barely wait until morning to continue his digging. However, Mike understood that he needed to report his find to the experts, so he contacted the local National Museum. His statement was initially taken with a grain of salt, but the employees of the museum still came out to the site to verify this discovery. After the joint excavations, archaeologists were convinced of the uniqueness of the discovery. Mike found a real Celtic chariot, and all the further excavations were carried out together with the archaeologists. Many decorative items were found at the site. However, this wasn't what made the find so unique. Mike's metal detector indicated that there was a large metal object under the first layer of the excavations. Mike believes that it's a treasury or a warehouse of ancient weapons. Right now, the area has been closed to the public, and the excavations are carried out using special equipment. Researchers believe that this place was a settlement of the ancient Celts. Moats, walls, and other archaeological objects have already been discovered. In fact, by pulling the old chain at the edge of the field, Mike discovered a huge ancient settlement, and only a part of it has been explored so far. The lucky man registered his finds and sold them to the National Museum. In accordance with the law, he shared the proceeds with the owner of the land on which he discovered the treasure. However, the man still got a decent amount of money for his efforts. Moreover, Mike is proud that his find has become the most important exhibit in the museum. Friends, that's all for today. Like the video, subscribe to our channel, and let us know in the comments which of these stories you like the most. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.